Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're just waiting for some more participants to join you. For those who are here with us, you have the chat. If you look down at the menu in Zoom, you have the option to use the chat. So give us a quick shout to say hello. And let us know, what is it you want to get out of this webinar today? So what's the most important thing for you? If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and we will answer them as we go along, or we will answer them once we are done with the webinar. So thank you so much for being here today. And I hope you brought loads of questions, because we're so excited about sharing everything we know with you today. So please feel free to ask anything you want. And yeah, so. All right, excellent. Just in general, great. You'll learn loads, so don't worry about Eliza. You will learn loads. Maria's so great. She's been prepared so well for this one.
And you can also always ask the questions, so we will pick them up after the presentation. And also maybe, Eliza, you can introduce yourself, where you dialing in from. I'm personally in London, and Michaela is somewhere near Berlin in her camper van.
Yes, I'm in my camper van at the moment, and yeah, I'm outside of Berlin, about 40 kilometers from it.
Yeah, it's so funny. We actually didn't realize that Michaela will be having her holiday on the day on the webinar. So she is the beauty of remote working and agile ways of working that we implement in our company.
Absolutely.
Oh, hi, Suzanne. I can see Suzanne from Untitled joined us.
Hello, Suzanne. Great to have you here as well on the call. Please feel free to ask any questions you like. We're super excited to have you here with us today. We're just waiting for a couple more minutes for people to join before we start. I'm Michaela, based out of Berlin, Maria's colleague, and Suzanne, you probably know Maria already, so no introduction needed. For those who are just starting to join us now, please feel free to give us a quick shout in the chat. Let us know where you're based, where you're from, and what you want to take out of this webinar today. So if you brought any questions along, please feel free to just type them in the chat and we will answer them as we go along, or we will answer them at the end of the webinar. Excellent. So Maria, I think maybe you want to start. Oh, for those who just joined, you've got the option, the chat box at the bottom of the screen. So this is where you can type in your questions and yeah, whatever you want to type in there, basically, whatever you want to share with us. We will, in the chat, we will share later on a few important or not so important links for you, but a few great links for you can use to get more information. And we will share this webinar and some exciting design templates with you after this webinar as well. So I think I hand over to my dear colleague Maria, who's based off of London. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And Maria, why don't you start?
Yeah, I will start. I just want to check if you can see my screen.
Yes.
And if you can hear me okay.
So can everyone just give it a quick yes? Just type a quick yes so we know you are with us. Excellent. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Lloyd.
Awesome. Yeah, I will start. And we have our also tech guru, obviously, Michaela, and our tech guru, Marat. So if you have any issues, please type in the chat box, so they will be able to help you. And also, if you have any questions during the presentation, please also type them in the chat box and we will pick them up after the presentation. And so, yeah, hello everyone, and welcome to the Method Academy webinar. As Michael already mentioned, I am Maria from Fastuna, and Michaela is my colleague. And we work for the company which is called Fastuna. And who don't know what we do, this is an automated platform for quick tests that gives you quantitative consumer feedback within just a few hours. So I hope you guys doing great. And today we are going to cover a very exciting topic. We will talk about research methods that help you to support designing your product. And the paradigm behind it will be a design thinking approach. So in this webinar, we will take you through the stages of product development, following the design thinking approach, as I already mentioned. And what we will do, we will outline key research methods that can be used at each stage of the process. So you learn how to bring consumers into the heart of your product design. We will also share some resources and useful links. And the key takeaway, we hope that will be is how to integrate research and research methods and techniques while designing your products. And yes, we will have some time for Q&As as well. What I like about design thinking approach, and it's actually not about design as such, and it's the way to innovate with the deep understanding of consumer needs in the core of every decision. So design thinking can be quite challenging, though quite exciting path for innovators to undertake. You probably remember old school technology-led approach. I do remember it for sure. I worked for a tissue manufacturer for quite a while, for a number of years. And often in the old days, innovation started with something like, we can produce this product, so let's just implement it and see how it works. So design thinking approach starts with actually fundamental understanding of human needs, behaviors, and with being really empathic to your consumers. And this is, for me, is very humanistic approach. So Ideate, the agency who helps their client create innovative products, had a big say in populating design thinking approach. And you can see here the quote by David Cayley, the founder of Ideate, who used to say that the main tenet of design thinking is empathy for the people you are trying to design for. And I'm just loving it. So, and design thinking is not necessarily just the set of tools. It is also a mindset. And for me, one of the key points of this mindset is you're actually open to change and you're open to failure. And you probably heard a lot about failing fast. And for me, this is the key, because this is what actually makes companies really consumer centric, because you're not afraid to get consumer feedback and you're not afraid to test. So you're not afraid to actually bring your consumers into the heart of everything you do. And I also want to point out, while taking this approach, is important to kind of, move away from this mindset of killing your ideas on the spot. And I know that sometimes is important to be able to make go and no-go decision. Yes, it is. But this approach actually gives you this kind of space to create without necessarily fear that your idea will fail, because you take this mindset of nurturing your ideas. You can look at it, okay, if some people didn't like it, why? And you can kind of implement what we call iterative process to the design process. So that means that you create, you test, you get the feedback, and then you adjust. And you can always come to the very, very earliest stage. We will talk about it later on in the presentation, which actually will help you to get your idea and your product, when you launch it, to be very sure that this product will be successful. And the last but not least is integrity. Is actually integrating values of your business with the values of your consumers. And I think this is super important. So having consumer values in the heart of what you're doing. Okay, that was a visionary part. And now let's go into the details. There are 6 stages of design thinking process that we identify. You're probably aware about all of them or most of them. So the idea is that you start with empathy and you move through definition, then through blue sky thinking and ideation that you kind of select again and via testing, then you go into prototyping and test again. And again, I want to say the process is not linear. So the beauty of this approach that you can come back to the very beginning, add new features, adjust it with your product before you go into the final phase. And you can do some stages in parallel. For example, you can already do prototyping while ideating, you know, it's just up to you, but we will just look at each stage one after another. It's just easier to look at it this way. So first we empathize. And this is the key stage to the whole process. And I'm not kidding here. If you miss it, you are not innovating with consumers in mind. And in this stage, you need to deep dive into the experience of your consumer or user or customer and to get insight into their problems. And by doing this, you uncover opportunities to improve their experience. And there are a few key principles you can see on the right that are important at this stage. For me personally, I believe that central is so-called beginner's mind. Beginner's mind is when you look at everything as if you never heard about it before, as if you're doing something for the very first time. And it helps you really then to step into your consumer's shoes and understand their needs much, much better. And yes, curiosity and open mind helps. So just a fun example here. Imagine you've got a vision. Maybe you work for a food business industry, or maybe you just love pets and thinking about startup or the business that provides best nutrition for dogs. And I know that Michaela is smiling here because she has 2 dogs herself, and she is passionate about, you know, providing her dogs and the dogs the dogs she knows with the best nutrition. So and it can be anything with this stage. So it can be, when you think about it, you don't think necessarily about the solution yet. It's just your vision. And that comes from the very heart of your business. And it can be anything. Yeah, it can be food. It could be food itself. It can be a service, or maybe an app. And you can keep your mind open. So what I need to do at this stage is having this vision in mind, is to step into the shoes of my potential customers. So how you can learn from consumers at this stage? This stage is rich with different methods. Mostly it is associated with qualitative techniques and methods, such as you can see them listed here. It can be ethnography, observations, in-depth interviews, immersions, video diaries, and more. I need to say that we have an expert here amongst the participants in this webinar from the agency we call it's just called Untapped, and they're really good in terms of like bringing bringing this earlier stage consumer exploration to the businesses. And we can play, maybe, you know, ping in the chat what you do to learn about, what would you do to learn about the pet owners, their needs, pains, and challenges. Maybe you can, because you can get really, really creative. So what I would do, I definitely would talk with other pet owners. Or if I don't have a pet, I will borrow one and spend some time with it. And the technique, which is called moccasins, really walk in their shoes, you know, understand the pain points. I love ethnography and observations when I can really spend the day with the real people, or I can watch the videos and observe the real behavior. It can be done, you know, at home, outside, online, in the shop. So multiple opportunities. And I will, so you can collect some behavioral data, and you can collect some in-depth interviews as well, do some in-depth interviews, and ask them, how do they feel about their pet's nutrition, for instance, and overall, how much do they care? What are their viewpoints of longevity, activity, health, and general mood of their pets, for instance, and how they impact life of their owners. So you get, imagine you get lots of data like that. And what you can do as the next stage, you can put your insights into very simple templates. There's just a couple listed here that we, like our clients love to use. The one is called Empathy Map and Customer Journey Map. You can, there are the sources down here that you can find them, or you can just Google in the web. It's really, really easy to use. So the Empathy Map is about what they say. For instance, it's easy to give my pet a ready food, but in the back of my mind, I'm not 100% sure I'm doing my dog the best, for instance. And they think maybe I'm not taking a good care of my pet. I'm so unsure that I'm doing the right thing. What do? They change the brand of pet food often, or they ask for advice. And how they feel, they maybe feel disappointment and concern. So something that you can easily implement in your daily work when you do the, before the ideation. Even though this stage is associated mostly, as I said, with qualitative techniques, you can actually use a few quantitative methods, and that will help you to quantify your user experience. For instance, their problems, their needs. You can use primary research sources, for instance, usage and attitude studies, or you can use something available like behavioral data or social listening. It depends obviously on the industry you work in, what data is available. So use all the sources before you move forward. And just give you a quick example on the pets topic is how you can quantify your insights at earlier stage. It doesn't need to be something very comprehensive. It could be as easy as just quantifying how many dogs are, dog owners in the country. This data is real data for the UK. So you can see that dogs are actually dominate versus cats. So definitely the dog country. And then you can see the size of the dog. And you can also see what type of food they give to the dog. And you can see, for instance, that 20% use home cooked meals. So you might kind of start thinking already, okay, what type of information I will bring to the ideation session. So then we focus. So this stage is really about bringing your business needs and your consumer needs together to create a powerful ground for brainstorming. So here you bring all your learnings from stage 1 to the table and identify consumer-centric need or problem that needs to be solved. And it's important that you formulate it the way that will provide a great substrate for ideation. Also, you can learn at this stage about who your consumers are in more detail and define your target audience at this stage as well. And I will show you. So what we like to recommend and see what clients use at this stage is to actually take simple templates and turn facts and observations into insights. So you can use point of view template, which is very easy, very simple template. So it consists of who your users are, what their needs are, and what the insight is behind this need that creates your opportunity to innovate. So now you can try to reframe your insight statement. And here, how might we questions can help. So what you also can find those templates online. It's about like business problem, user needs, and opportunities. So basically by asking how might we, you marry your business goals with consumer needs. So, for instance, I can ask the question here, how might we create the service for those who cook for their pets to make it less time-consuming and more enjoyable for them? And before you go into ideation, you can actually deep dive into who your consumers are in more detail. So you can either use more straightforward approach, identifying their social demographic parameters, like age, gender, country they live in, and maybe this part of the country they live in, and so on. And also their category usage patterns. You know, they cook for their pets, or they don't cook for their pets, what type of food they use, or they, you know, the type of pet they own, or it can be attitudinal segmentation. For instance, you can go and look at it into more need states based segments. So it can be, and so those segments can be defined in terms of any parameters, and that can be maybe more complicated or complex, or it can be as easy as like social demographic, as I said before. And as here's just a fun example. Perhaps you find that pet owners needs, their owners' needs vary depending on how they perceive their dog as an eater. You know, it can be a happy dog, happy to eat everything. It can be pretty fussy tummies. It can be demanding dog for the special food. And some dogs just sometimes don't eat at all. So yeah, just be creative here, but anything you can bring to the table for the ideation helps, especially when especially at this stage, you can always, as I said, get your qualitative insights and quantify them before you move forward. So once you get all your data sorted, you go into the ideation. And this stage, we get together, bring all the knowledge, all the templates, everything you know in the room, and it can be an online room, of course, and generate as many ideas as we can. So for me, the key principle here is actually stay open-minded. And again, you are not allowed to kill any ideas on the spot. And this is exciting about this stage. So, but don't forget to link your ideas to consumer needs. And the question is always, can you still bring consumers in at this stage? And of course you can do it. There are certain methods and techniques how you can involve consumers during ideation. You can do co-creation lab. You can do interviews during your process. That can be really, really fascinating process. And you can learn about co-creation labs in the internet. It's not the service that we provide, but I find it super exciting when you see it, when you ideate and innovate around the same table, with consumers, in the same space with consumers, is really, really exciting. Okay, so we came up with many ideas. So what do we do next? So we select the best, and this can be powerful. So however, it's not necessary, again, killing ideas on the spot. We nurture them and giving them the best chance to succeed. And here is very, very important when you go into the testing with consumers, is that you have this nurturing idea mindset in mind. And it's very important as well to formulate your ideas in consumer-friendly language. Because this is the way how consumers, you know, this is the way how you will present it to consumers when the product would be out there. This is how they perceive. So it is really important to kind of walk in their shoes and know the language, the words they use, so to present it to them. And also there is a principle that sometimes people forget, but you need to know your selection criteria up front. And if you if you go and you don't know, it may cause, especially with the bigger team, it may cause some kind of tension between people and stakeholders. So you decide upfront how you're going to select, or maybe you decide, okay, we are not going to apply any selection criteria, but then you need to be mindful that, as I said, that you might end up with many ideas and not knowing how to move forward. So how you validate your ideas? Don't forget that you can also need to validate them with the business, from the business perspective. Is this idea viable for your business? So there are certain tools, for instance, we used in the company in the past a lot, that like the simple mapping about value capture and value creation, or there are many other maps and processes that you can identify that will help you to understand, you know, if you can actually do it. And then what you do, you test your ideas with consumers, as I said. So here, multiple methods can be used at this stage. And we advise quantitative methods because they will give you statistical data to identify also market potential for each of the ideas. And you can test your ideas, very, very draft ideas. You can test the concept, which are more defined ideas. You can test them individually, or you can rank them. You can use more advanced methods like conjoint analysis. That is very useful when you have many features in mind, or many product ingredients, or something around tariff plans is very useful as well, and you are not sure which one will make the biggest impact. So I will just show you one example of the idea test that we ran on our platform. So this is just the example how you can approach the testing of your ideas. So we were thinking about plastic waste of manual toothbrushes and how it can be reduced. And plus, we also know that sustainability agenda is really strong among consumers. So we ideated a bit, and we kind of felt that offered them this idea about manual toothbrush with replaceable heads. We asked the illustrator, you know, the simple sketch to bring this idea more to life for consumers, and a very simple description is here. So, and let's see how we did. So we tested with real consumers, and you can see that by number of KPIs, we didn't do that great. For instance, the idea wasn't relevant to about 40% of the consumers, and also the purchase interest wasn't that high. So then we deep dive into the data, and we realized, when we look at the like kind of more qualitative feedback, what consumers were giving us, like as a why they liked, for instance, the idea, we understood that actually the environmental message was really strong. However, we also learned that there were plenty of consumers who actually didn't use manual toothbrushes anymore. They used electric ones, and they said, well, for us, it's not relevant. So what we learned is that what we need to do is just focus on those who use manual toothbrush and make it appealing for them. So the same, I don't have example of dog food. Maybe I should after this webinar, but you can test any idea, you can test app, you can test service, anything that comes to mind this way. Okay, so exciting. We are coming to prototyping stage. So at this stage, we create working prototypes for the most promising ideas, which then will be tested with consumers. And honestly, you can prototype of anything, with anything. You can, you can get really, really creative here. And it's important here to don't be afraid to go back from the very start into the empathy stage. And you have a leeway here. And remember, the more feedback you get at this stage, the better. And I do believe that prototyping is exciting. There are lots of methods that you can use available online. I like this website, this service designdoing.com, where you can find quite a few descriptions of the method that will help you with prototyping. And by the way, I forgot to mention, you can still bring consumers into this stage as well that can prototype with you. Okay, and the last stage, once you get your prototype done, is then again, you bring your product to your consumers and test it. And again, remember that you test you test to validate and also to optimize. And we work with the agency that called Creative Gurus in the past. And Mark, the person who worked in there, he gave us such a beautiful quote, which I completely agree with. And at this stage, it's still important to keep a fluid learning approach to products. Remember about nurturing ideas. If everything seems great, knowing that there will be still learning and development opportunities for your idea and product to move forward. And staying forever fluid is the heart of design thinking approach. And the key principles here, I just want to voice them out, is that learn about users through testing. Is really, really important. And you can, again, as like feedback to what Mark said. So you really get the feedback and you optimize. And again, yeah, be okay with the failure. You know, sometimes we have to go back to step 1 to 3. And again, clear criteria. I always say to all my clients, what are your criteria for decision making? What are your action standards? What are your KPIs? Because simply as that, your KPIs should be always linked to the business goals, to your business goals. So, and if you don't have them at this stage, so you should have them. Simple as that. So in terms of testing here, anything is possible. You can do the product testing. You can test it in the lab. You can test it at home. You can test it online, depending on the product you are creating. You can test description of your product, illustrations, sketches, 3D prototypes. You can create a short video, explain how your product works and show them to consumers, which would be probably easier versus even the prototype. And you can really quick reach quite a lot of consumers. This is the benefits of online testing. You can observe how they use it. You can place your product with users for some time and get their feedback. Via diaries, blog, video footage, and observe how they actually use them. You can use quantitative methods, very similar to what I showed you with the toothbrush, and at this stage as well. And you can apply, as I said, for instance, in our platform, you can test 3D prototypes in no time. You can do design testing, UX testing as well. So see how people navigate through the app, for instance. So for me, as like future owner of the pet nutrition business, I can say that I would probably develop an app and a service for people that they can approach via app, and they can easily get all ingredients for their dog I have dog, so I'm thinking about the dog, but for their pets. So then I would, at this stage, I would definitely test the idea of the service. I will definitely test maybe a prototype of an app as well. So any elements you can bring here and test. And so we got it, and taking the idea through all the stages. Imagine that we've got a great business opportunities verified and measures. And we also got the happy customer in the end. So how great is that? So to summarize, just the learnings from what I experienced in the past to going through the design thinking process, I would say, as a business owner or is the working for the business, the first thing I would say is like always focus on your vision. Don't always keep your vision in mind, but empathy at all times. But remember that consumer is in the heart of what you do. Remember that failure is just a feedback. There is no failure. And from anything you learn from the failure, the big time. Test all the time. So test often. Don't be afraid to get the feedback. And creativity is your secret weapon. Sometimes when you just feel maybe, in despair and you don't know what to do, you remember that, yeah, I can always stay on top. I can always stay creative. And I can stay creative in what I'm innovating, but also in the methods that I use. And the methods, like for me, creativity is also the ways how I can approach my customers and learn from them in a different ways. And it makes it exciting for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I might also want to add that sometimes when you think a product is not really taking off, you will be surprised how research can help you, how data can help you to actually turn it around, because you'll see exactly where you have the gel points with your consumers. You see exactly what you have to improve in order to get the product to where your consumer wants it. So never give up on a product. If you believe in it, then really go for it and use research in order to find out where are the sweet spots with your consumers and then act accordingly. This is what makes what makes using data so actionable, because you get results you can turn into successful products. And our customers show that over and over again.
Yeah, that's a great comment, Michaela. I love it. It's absolutely right. And I'm saying like failure is just a feedback, and it's no failure in the end. Yeah. I'm seriously thinking about this pet food business now.
Yeah, I was thinking, wow, that sounds great, Maria. Let's go for it. I've got ideas.
Yeah, I will test it tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like how we can help you to go through the process. So as I said, we provide the very fast consumer service that you launch in 5 minutes. I'm not kidding. And you get results within 24 hours. Most of our clients get results within just a few hours. And so we have our DIY solution, which is very versatile, and you can use it at the very earliest stage. Even do this like mini UNAs that I showed you on the dog food, or you can just understand your target audience better with the same tool. So any questions you need to ask, upfront, maybe the size and of the need of the pain, challenge for consumers as well, or users, is possible to do via DIY. Then when you get to the already drafting your ideas, you can use our standardized solutions for the testing. So we have product idea, which is, as I said, very versatile. You can test anything, like starting from very, very kind of draft description of the product to the sketches, prototypes, videos that show you how your product works or service works. That can be useful for apps, can be useful for services, for 3D prototypes. So really versatile. Ranked solution, if you have like 10, well, I won't probably recommend to test like ideas, but for the features is the best. You can test the features by just asking consumers to rank. Our product design, which is kind of looks at the design, which is like kind of closer to again, you can test your prototypes there, and something more defined products that is ready to hit, to be launched. I wanted to say hit the shelf, but you're not necessarily work for the for the, you know, I came from FMCG business, so that's, I'm always thinking about hit the shelf, but you know, anything that before launch. So yeah, that's us. You can reach us by contacting us, ask@fastuna.com to get more details about what we do. And also, we offer you the free resource that we run on our website. It's called Method Academy, and it does have a lot of information about, you know, the market research, consumer user research, tools, DIY, and how to do it, and different topics as well. So,
and very exciting topics as well. For example, also when not to research, because a lot of people don't know that as well. So they're super exciting. So if you know colleagues, if you want yourself to sign up for this, this is something we want to give back to the community, because we do strongly believe in research. We are all from a research background, so we know how helpful it is. But we also know that sometimes it's difficult to convince your boss that it's necessary to do this type of work. So this is how we want to give back, and we give you exciting and really good arguments for research onto your hands as well. So this way we want to give back something for free, and do please share this and sign up for it if you like it.
Yeah, I will stop sharing now, and I will see if there are any questions. Yeah. Michaela, did you notice any questions?
No, we haven't had any questions. I think it was very clear so far, but for all of those, for all of you, you can hear my dogs in the background, by the way. For all of you who are still here, please feel free to ask your questions. Is there anything you're working on that you feel in particular you would like to ask about, or do you feel like you want more information? Yeah, we've got a question there, so you can, Marat, maybe can you unmute Eliza to give him allow him to speak?
Eliza, you need to unmute yourself to be able to talk. No, it's...
Marat, maybe you need to unmute everyone so everyone has the option to speak.
Yes, Eliza, please unmute.
Yeah, I think maybe Eliza has some issues. Thank you, Lloyd. Yeah.
Okay, Eliza, if you can't get this to unmute, you have a question, please feel free to contact us after this webinar. We'll be there for you as well. Just send us a quick mail to ask@fastuna.com and we can pick it up with you. Right, Eliza, why don't you ask it in the chat so we can answer your question here? Should be able to unmute though.
Also, Diaz has a question, but cannot unmute.
Right, Diaz, also, please feel free to...
Ah, here you go.
Oh, there we go, Diaz, hello. We can't hear you, so you might have to have a look at the microphone in the left hand of your screen, in the left-hand corner of your screen. So you might have to...
Yeah, this is bizarre because I think Diaz is unmuted, but I cannot hear him.
Yeah, same here. I can't hear you.
Yeah, Eliza actually asked the question if we can use the same method for a service. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is like what that's like my actually, you know, my just fun example about pets actually evolved, and I'm thinking about, yeah, it can be a great service. Absolutely the same process you undertake for a service. We actually tested, we ran a few online kind of mini hackathons last year just to play with the tools. And a couple of them were actually focusing on developing some services. we were giving people tasks to focus on the service like that may help people in COVID. It can be a bank service, for instance. So it's absolutely no difference. And you can test the same way as you test the products. So absolutely. And Eliza, feel free to contact us if you have something specific in mind. We'll be we will be able to help you with some more precise kind of recommendations if we know what service you are talking about.
And yes, please, we will share the slides and anything that's useful for you after the webinar as well with you. So you will get that as well. If you have any more in-depth questions about the empathy bit, please do feel free to contact us on this directly.
Yeah, we actually will be sending the download. We will be sending the short guide for design thinking, and there will be useful links where you can find methods that help, you know, with the empathy. So you can find it there, and again. There is a lot of information on the web about it, but there will be some useful links about it as well.
So Eliza, what type of consumers are you trying to reach with your translation services? So who's your target group?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
A scientific and technical translator, English to Italian. Okay, so there's a very narrow target group actually. So I'm not sure if Fastuna would be the right platform for something like that, but you know, you never know.
I would say that what I would do in this stage, I will definitely get into the, start with the empathy stage and try to reach out, maybe to existing customers that already using your services and try to understand or the companies that have those needs, maybe use this term of like the form of interviews with them, that how I would approach it. This is like what we do for Fastuna business anyway, We try to identify the pain points of people, and then we ask people for the interviews, and it's actually good. You kind of kill two birds in one stone. So it's a good way to really get their pain points done, and you can use the empathy map for this. And also kind of, understand, the best way how you can communicate your services, because maybe this is not a service as such, but the way you market it.
Yeah, and you have quite a bit of competition out there, and they all claim that they're brilliant. And from our own experience, we know that not all translation services who claim to be really good are really good. So there's if I was your customer, for example, I can tell you there are some trust issues a lot of people have with translation services, purely based on previous experiences. I can speak for us, because we had this experience as well with translators. So it's very important for you to understand how much do people trust that you really are the right guy for the translation services. So I think it really is getting into the heads of your consumers by directly asking questions. So, do you really trust the services from translators? So how do you usually go about translations? How do you think it competes to Google Translator, for example, because a lot of people are using Google Translator these days because it's actually quite accurate. And if you're from the field, you might have a colleague in Italy who can help with the translation and do the, fine tuning of it. So it's basically to understand what is it you go against? So, what is it, what are the issues people have in regards to employing a translator for this type of service? Because they must be getting it done somehow, right? So there must be a solution for them. So it's also important for you to maybe understand, how do they go about a current solution? So how do they go about getting their translations done right now? And that way you can suggest something that improves the way they're doing it currently. You know, for example, in our case, we would say we're spending a lot of time. So, you know, if someone comes and says, I can do it a lot better than you guys do it, and I give you a lot, I save you a lot of time, then we probably go like, oh, okay, let's give it a try and see how it works.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter. I understand this is very specific, and maybe a Google, it's good that Google Translate is not effective, because then you can kind of, you know, showcase your services. And again, I would start with the empathy map here. For me, it's a universal tool, and I will start with really working in your consumer shoes, understand their needs more, talk to them, get their feedback as well. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get the feedback. Then you can improve your services and be more successful in selling to the new customers as well. So yeah. There is also the question from Diaz. Do you have any suggestions for students how to empathize with SME companies they will do assignments for? Mostly B2B and usually not very common target audiences. Yeah, well, I'm not sure 100% kind of getting the sense of the question though, because if you is it something about you want to place yourself with small companies somewhere and try to understand their needs and pain points better, so to kind of sell yourself to them? Is it a question? Anyway, I would say that the same, you know, do research, see what people say, you know, what is the buzz, like social listening helps, like go online, see what people discuss, what they talk about, pain points. There you can approach some people, you know, interview them, you know, ask them, you know, like I would like to do this, and I want to understand this. So, and yeah, this is all about interaction for me. So not whatever business you work on or you're thinking about working on is always interaction with people, with real people, and listening to them, instead of like, okay, I have this idea and like kind of imposing this idea on them. The first listen to them, what are their pain points, and then get creative, how you can take on these pain points, and you know, it's just like make your proposition, your offering. So for me, it's just, yeah,
especially if it's a small target audience. If you say it's B2B and it's not very common, then it's the best way to go about is really to build up the relationship with your target audience and to find out, you know, what is it they're after, or what is it, if you try to sell your services to them, what is it they need. So again, find out what their needs really are and connect with them, because usually if it's a smaller group, especially in the B2B industry, you will find that connection and networking is everything in that industry. So you will, you know, build up your network, get to know people, find out where do they meet up, what is it, what forums are they in, where do they get their information from, read that information, find out what they think about, what they talk about, and then, you know, approach them with that knowledge in mind. So you can already tell them, I'm on my way to become an expert in your field, so I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just the way, because there is a lot of methods. So there are a lot of methods that you can use. Don't be stuck with like one or like couple, just be really creative. And as I said, like for B2B, maybe not always, especially with specific target audiences, quantitative might not work that well. But then you kind of, as I said, you can approach your customers from the, you know, from the point of view, okay, what in-depth insights I can get, and then kind of to build my proposition. And it's always like interaction and networking for me.
Thanks. You can't hear me, yeah, I think, or do you?
Oh,
we
can.
Oh, great. So, all right, thanks. So, yeah, I work as a teacher marketing at the University of Applied Sciences, and where our students going to do assignments for a lot of different companies in February. And so that's where my question is coming from. Because we're going to work with design thinking process, and they will have to empathize, the first 2 weeks. And usually they find it very difficult and very scary as well to talk to customers. But usually they have sometimes they have very weird audiences, like B2B companies working in solar panels and or working in heat pumps, so you have to empathize with those potential customers, and they find it difficult to find the right people to talk to. So that's why my question was, do you have suggestions? But social listening, of course, good suggestion, forums maybe, and just go out there.
Yeah, and I think a wealth of source of information is LinkedIn these days. So also for the B2B,
true.
so LinkedIn is just amazing, because you get a feel for your clients. There are loads of self-organized meetups and groups where people meet. You find out what their interests are, so there's a wealth of information on LinkedIn in itself.
Definitely a good one. Definitely with hashtags, finding certain topics like SME.
Absolutely. Yeah,
or
it's
a very good one. Yeah, and finding and groups as well. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I also would recommend for students, especially because we are hiring people from time to time, of course. And when sometimes people come and they don't know what the company is doing. They apply, and for me it's no go immediately. So for instance, if they want to talk to solar panel manufacturer, I would go, oh, thank you, Suzanne, thank you for being with us. It's actually Suzanne. I will type the agency DS, and they're really good in ideations and prototyping and empathy and all these things. So Suzanne represents this agency. But I would say that go to the website of the company you're going to talk to and learn about it, what their vision, mission, what they do, and what their goals. There is always a lot of information on the website, and you can kind of get the sense what they're looking for as a customer on the website.
No, it's true. Although my experience with SMEs is that usually they don't have, like the smaller companies, they're not very into organized mission, vision, goals. But I get it's definitely a good point to starting point. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you can
still get it.
I have to leave as well.
It's also. Yes, I just wanted to add, it's a good starting point and a good point to start a discussion as well, because you can tell them, have you noticed that you haven't got a mission statement on your website, and how important is this for an SME, question mark, and then send that as an email to have an opener for them, so find questions, get your students to find questions they can think of that might be catching the interest of these people.
Yeah. But thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks both, and looking forward to the summary, to the documents. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.